So there was a simulation done June 1st, 2001, shortly before 9/11. The official graphic that they put out for this simulation, Wikipedia has it right here, Osama bin Laden's face right in the middle. Operation Amalgam Virgo is a CINCINO-RAD, however you say that, whatever, some military thing, joint task counter-terrorist and field training exercise carried out in Tyndall Air Force Base on early June 2001. NORAD sponsored the multi-agency planning exercise involving the hypothetical scenario of a cruise missile or a UAV launched by a terrorist group. Osama bin Laden was pictured on the cover of the proposal for the exercise. Key military players involved in the exercise also included personnel from the 1st Air Force Battalion, the U.S. National Guard, the U.S. Reserve Forces, and the U.S. Navy. Notice what ship they used, what naval ship they used for the exercise, the USS Yorktown. Yorktown, New York. The name of the simulation with the most simple cipher is 119, like the way the majority of the world writes the date 11/9. And if you put the operation in front, using the reverse alphabetic order in rules of numerology, it's 119. And again, this is how we figured out that these are the base ciphers, because they just come together so perfectly with everything. With regards to Virgo, of course, Virgo is the time of when 9/11 happened, runs from August 23rd to September 22nd. If you've missed Rambo's work on Mercury in 9/11, look at the definition of amalgam. An alloy of mercury with another metal, especially one used for dental fillings. Well, that part's not important, but the Mercury part is. Remember, Mercury has the Gematria 41, like Al-Qaeda, like Saudi Arabia, like USA. It happened on a 41 date numerology, 9 plus 11 plus 20 plus 01. So Rambo's been teaching us all about Mercury and transportation and why they said it was planes, transportation crashing in. Mercury's the god of transportation. I mean, talk about where Gematria meets astrology. And of course, Virgo's very important. The Virgin Mary, her birthday is celebrated in the time of Virgo, very important to the Catholic Church. And the Christian Coptics, many contend that September 11th, which is their New Year's Day for the Christian Coptic calendar, they contend that that's Jesus' real birthday. Again, this event, 9/11, essentially triggered the new Crusades. June 1st, the day that this simulation began, it went June 1st and June 2nd. It was a 2-day simulation from the day it started to September 11th is 102 days later. It's also 14 weeks and 4 days. We'll just leave that part alone. 102 days? They say the 9/11 attack lasted 102 minutes. And if you go back to what Donald Trump said the day of 9/11, he said he was worried about his insurance company on the 102nd floor of the World Trade Centers. And remember what day he tested positive for the virus? October 2nd, 102. 102. We'll talk more about it here. 102 minutes that changed America. The most important cipher outside of the base ciphers is Jewish Gematria. Al-Qaeda's 102. Jewish Gematria is really important to 9/11. Using that same cipher, Al-Qaeda terrorist attacks 9/11, Vatican Hills 9/11, where they're operating out of, Divisions 911, Jihadists 911, they said jihadists attacked us. If you don't know about the book, The Final Jihad, find that book, read that book. It was first published before the bombing of Oklahoma City by Tim McVeigh. It was written by the brother of the governor of Oklahoma City at the time of the Oklahoma City bombing. It has a skull and bones on the cover. There's a guy who packs a truck full of explosives in that book and blows up the same building. And in the book, he gets pulled over by the police, and then they let him go, just like the official story of Tim McVeigh, who was supposedly pulled over and let go before he blew up the building. Everything that's in that book is what happened at Oklahoma City. And the guy in the book's name is McVeigh. I think his name is Tom McVeigh, not to be confused with Tim McVeigh, but the last name's the same, McVeigh. And there's some other stuff in that book. There's some other stuff that alludes to like 9/11, but The Final Jihad is what it's called. The other thing on that list, Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av's the Jewish day to remember the destruction of the 2 temples. Isn't that nice? The 2 towers, the 2 temples. And realize what Israel really is. Israel is an asset created in the Middle East as a result of the contrived world wars, as a strategic military center. All of this stuff is connected. But who controls it all is Vatican Hill, the church. With regards to that, this 102, the Jesuits translated Sun Tzu's Art of War, and there's no evidence that Sun Tzu ever lived. And the Jesuit logo's the sun. Remember, sun equals 54, like Jesuit order. But Art of War's 102, World War's 102. Remember in the Event 201 simulation, the reflection of 102, they compare it to Spanish flu, and Spanish flu came out of World War I and happened in 1918, 102 years before 2020, and social distancing's 102, and Wuhan, China's 102, and they've been doing 102 rituals all over the whole world with coronavirus. Jacinda Ardern 102 ended the 102 days of being open with another lockdown, and there's been a bunch. Again, Trump with the virus on 10-2. But check it out, you guys. Amalgam Virgo in the most pure cipher. 56 like Society of Jesus. And remember, the planes that supposedly hit targets that day. Flight 11 and Flight 175 are what hit the World Trade Centers. Flight 77 supposedly hit the Pentagon. 11 plus 77 plus 175 is 263. The 56th prime. Just like we were talking about, the Queen getting the virus or the vaccine 263 days after her birthday. I guess when you get the vaccine, that is kind of really when you get the virus, right? Because it gets injected into your body. And right after they started with these vaccines, then all of a sudden there were new strains of the COVID while nobody has the flu or cold anymore. But again, Society of Jesus in reverse is 79. And look at how that works out with Osama bin Laden, whose face is on the poster for this simulation. You know what I mean? This is the best thing ever, in my opinion, for exposing what really happened on 9/11. Another perfect simulation, perfectly synced up with their event, with the Jesuit numbers all over it, just like what they just did with TIP, the Transition Integrity Project, where it was simulated that Puppet Trump would lose the election to Biden and then refuse to step down, and everything that happened on January 6th was part of the simulation. But notice also this Amalgam Virgo's 119 and 70, Vatican 70 and 119, Francis 70 and 119. Of course, he wasn't the Pope then, but I'm just making the point. He's the first Jesuit Pope. The simulation, it ended June 2nd, the 153rd day of the year. Jesuit Order 54, 153, Terrorism 54, Virgo 71 and 35, like Catholic 71 and 35. From Osama bin Laden's 44th birthday to when 9/11 happened was 185 days later. World Trade Center 185. And this is why back when Trump was running for president, I told people he was a walking, talking World Trade Center. Donald John Trump 185, World Trade Center 185. The World Trade Center's opened on April 4th, 73, the 94th day of the year. World Trade Center 77, just like when you write out September 11th. Remember it. The Pentagon, Flight 77, hit the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian, 77 minutes after taking off. Pentagon construction began on September 11th, 41. 9/11 happens on a 41 date numerology. They called it the new Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor happened in 41 on 127, December 7th. Buildings 1, 2, and 7 fell in New York. Then they called it Ground Zero, which only had one definition before 9/11, the place above or below ground where an atomic or nuclear bomb explodes. And what was the Manhattan Project, where the World Trade Centers were? Manhattan. The Manhattan Project to develop those weapons. And I just always hate how people say there's no such thing as atomic or nuclear bombs. Okay, first of all, you don't know that. I don't know that either, but that's beside the point. The point is whatever they used on 9/11 were sophisticated weapons technology. Something turned those massive buildings to dust as they crumbled to the ground, okay? That's a fact. You can go back and watch the tape. They turn to dust as they fall to the ground. They cover New York in dust. All sorts of people got all sorts of lung damage and health concerns and health problems from that day. I suspect it was a mixture of what was in the buildings and the weaponry that was used to destroy them. Isn't it nice how it all lines up? Mathematics and Catholicism, 185, 68. In 1968, World Trade Center construction began. 911 made the national emergency dialing code. George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones. Boeing debuted their jumbo jetliner. George W. Bush's birthday, by the way, is July 6th, which is from his birthday to 9/11's his 68th day of his age each year. Terror has that gematria of 68 and 94. Again, the World Trade Center opened on the 94th day of 73. Construction began in 68. They came down on the 41 date numerology. Roman Catholic Church, 94. 193, the 44th prime. It's all synced up with Osama's 44th birthday. 2001, A Space Odyssey came out in 68. The Club of Rome established in 68 on April 7th, nonetheless, for a nice 4774. The World Trade Center's on the 74th meridian, Building 7, 47 floors tall. Club of Rome has Gematria 110 and 47 like Osama bin Laden. And what do they tell us about Osama bin Laden? They say Al-Qaeda was created by the CIA, right? CIA's got the 68 in it. 11 years to the day of 9/11, George H.W. Bush, who was the 11th director of the CIA, he said, he gave that speech about a new world order, a world free or a terror, and then his son's the president when it goes down. Look at the numbers. If you don't know, the World Trade Centers, the project was started by the Rockefeller family, right? Rockefeller 110. And by the way, it's January 10th. Don't forget, David Rockefeller's on the cover of Newsweek. It should be on my old blog. There it is. April 3rd. April 3rd's the 93rd day of the year. You know, the 93 World Trade Center bombing. February 26, 226. And Jewish gematria, planet equals 226. And Saturn equals 93. And Saturn's the keeper of time. And all of these are rituals in time. But there's a lot more to the 93 World Trade Center bombing. That was right after Bill Clinton stopped the underground weapons testing program. And of course, he has no bloodline to the name Clinton. He was born Bill Blythe. But the original governor of New York was Clinton. So think about it. Right after you get a Clinton as president, this big ritual goes down in New York. His mother, though, married into that political family after the dad was found dead on the side of the road May 17th, 46. Look it up. 137th day of the year. 33rd prime. Clinton 33. But yeah, this right here. Over New York. It's a year before construction began on World Trade Centers. It was 1 year after. People will sometimes watch videos and they say, "You're lying. Construction began in 66. False. What happened in 66 was they cleared the ground for the World Trade Center and got it ready for construction. But construction began in August of 68 for the World Trade Centers. The ground was cleared in 66. That's not when construction began. So this was a year in between. On the 93rd day of the year, David Rockefeller. By the way, Newsweek's got that 111, like how the buildings came down on the day, leaving 111 days left in the year. It's got the 33 and 39. Well, New York, for the record, New York is 33, 39, and 111 too. And I'll show you another 111 here that fits in with our whole simulation. But the 110-story World Trade Centers, buildings 1 and 2, building 7 was 47 floors tall, goes right with the Club of Rome and Osama bin Laden and the date it was established in 68. Remember, Vatican's 47, Club of Rome, Catholicism 68. In light of this simulation having this 119 encoded all over it, never forget this one. From the day Obama became president to the day that Osama died was 119 weeks. I mean, just think of the mockery. Obama. A guy whose name is Barack Hussein Obama. After all these years of Saddam Hussein and Osama, now we're going to have Barack Hussein Obama. How do people not see the mockery? But 119 weeks. Are you guys kidding me? In 2011, they finally kill Osama. 11, like all the 11's the master number. I was on to all that before I knew Gematria. I know somebody put out a video on the early days of YouTube showing all the 11's on 9/11. That was definitely a drop in the bucket that helped me along the way. Keep in mind, 119 in numerology is 1 plus 1 plus 9 is 11. So even 119 itself is an 11. And then May 2nd, 5-2, terrorist 52. What a day for a terrorist to go down, right? I forget from his birthday to the day he died. His birthday is March 10th. Let's see. It was 53 days. Oh, I see. Or it was his 54th day of his age. Oh, I see. You know. Terrorist 52, terrorism 54. Isn't that nice? Jesuit Order 54, the original definition of terrorism is government by intimidation. And then President 52, Osama Obama. Club of Rome 52. Since they simulated missiles being fired at the U.S. by Osama. But notice, missiles 111, New York 111, 9/11 happened on the day, leaving 111 days left in the year. My new book that I'm working on, I already thought it was going to be the best. Now I know it's going to be the best of the best, because this is going in there.